Welcome to another video on dark psychology.
Persuasion surrounds us constantly. Friends influence our decisions. Families push us toward certain choices. Companies bombard us with adverts urging us to pick their products instead of their competitors. Persuasion is so deeply ingrained in daily life that many people forget it can be used maliciously, quietly guiding a person into decisions they never intended to make. So how does someone shift another person's behavior without provoking suspicion? Effective persuasion hides its intention. Push too aggressively, and the subject backs away. Apply subtlety and strategy, and they follow your direction willingly. Dr. Robert Cialdini, one of the most respected voices in behavioral psychology, identified 6 foundational principles that help explain why persuasion works, whether used ethically or manipulatively. Reciprocity. When you offer something, people feel compelled to return the favor. Social proof. People follow the crowd. Popularity becomes its own persuasion. Authority. When someone appears knowledgeable or powerful, we trust and obey. Likability. A friendly, relatable person easily earns compliance. Scarcity. The rarer something feels, the more urgently people desire it. These principles are the backbone of persuasion in both positive and dark psychological contexts. Negotiation is fundamentally about reaching agreement, and persuasion is the tool that makes agreement possible. You must convey your viewpoint in a way that feels compelling, logical, and beneficial to the other party. Whether asking for a raise, proposing a deal, or pitching an idea, persuasion bridges the gap between your intentions and their acceptance. Persuasion isn't born, it's learned. It's a skill that strengthens through awareness and practice. Every person brings their own biases, assumptions, and beliefs into negotiation. Some of these beliefs work in your favor, others fight against you. Persuasion allows you to shift those mindsets. It can reshape someone's view of the topic, or even alter their perception of you. A past misunderstanding or negative rumor can sabotage your progress. Persuasion helps dismantle those misconceptions. Conflicts often erupt during negotiations. Anger rises, judgment falters. A persuasive individual can diffuse that tension, restoring logic and clarity. Without this ability, many deals collapse under emotional pressure. Persuasion helps salvage not only the negotiation, but the relationship itself. Persuasion drives sales, promotions, job offers, leadership opportunities, and influence. It helps you articulate your worth and demonstrate why supporting your goals benefits others. Whether addressing one person or a room full of investors, persuasion shapes outcomes. Persuasion takes many forms: logical reasoning, emotional appeal, strategic pressure, or subtle psychological triggers. These techniques have been analyzed for centuries because of their ability to shape attitudes and behavior with precision. Force, psychological or emotional, relies on pressure. Threats, intimidation, or anger attempt to corner someone into agreeing. But persuasion collapses when the subject feels unsafe. Instead of compliance, Force often produces resistance or withdrawal. Effective persuasion thrives when the subject believes they still have choices. When someone receives a favor, it creates an internal pressure to return it. This obligation becomes a powerful lever for persuasion. People are socially conditioned to repay kindness. Failure to do so risks being judged as selfish. People prefer stability. Inconsistent messages destroy trust, while coherent narratives build it. Once someone commits, especially in writing, they naturally try to behave in alignment with that commitment. This leads to self-persuasion, where the subject reinforces their own decision without further external pressure. Humans follow the crowd, especially in uncertainty. Subtle changes in wording can reshape behavior, and people trust those who resemble them. Social proof leverages our instinct to mirror the group. We comply more readily with those we like. Physical attractiveness and similarity both enhance influence. When someone feels relatable, resistance fades. People instinctively trust authority figures. The Milgram studies highlighted how far individuals will go when instructed by someone who appears credible. Authority reduces uncertainty, and people follow. Limited availability increases desire. People value what they believe they might lose. Scarcity amplifies urgency and emotional response. Persuasion is a blend of strategy, psychology, and timing. These techniques have been refined since ancient civilizations, used by leaders, merchants, negotiators, and manipulators alike. The goal is always the same: to shift a belief, reshape a viewpoint, or guide behavior without overt force. The modern world is saturated with persuasion. Advertisements, politics, sales, relationships, and negotiation all rely on it. Because persuasion is everywhere, effective strategies must stand out. They must be deeper, smarter, and more psychologically precise. One of the strongest persuasion strategies is to create or emphasize a need. Humans are driven by fundamental requirements: safety, food, shelter, love, status, and belonging. When persuasion aligns with these core needs, resistance collapses. Convince someone that a product protects their family. They'll consider it. Show them a belief will elevate their status. They'll listen more closely. Link your idea to their survival or emotional security. They'll give you their attention instantly. Persuasion thrives when it taps into a human necessity already there, or creates the illusion of one. shadowy adult social silhouettes with stationary red pulse motif, high contrast noir lighting. People want acceptance. They want to belong. Social identity is powerful. Advertisements use this constantly, showing beautiful, successful, confident people using a product, implying that buying it brings you closer to that social ideal. Persuasion thrives when it ties an idea to identity. People like you choose this. This is what the successful wear. This is what leaders are doing. Appeal to belonging and compliance follows. Centered title card over glitchy monochrome texture, high contrast, cinematic noir mood. Macro close-up of newspaper headline strips and social posts, high contrast monochrome. Words carry weight. The phrasing you choose determines whether someone reacts emotionally, logically, or instinctively. Two sentences can mean the same thing, yet provoke completely different responses depending on tone and structure. Loaded imagery, carefully selected visuals, reinforces that emotional effect even further. Fear, desire, loss, hope, urgency. Persuasion is most potent when language and visuals work together to steer the subject's emotions before they even realize it. The foundations of persuasion haven't changed, but the delivery systems have evolved dramatically. Modern persuasion is fast, data-driven, and woven into every digital interaction. People are targeted through personalized ads, behavioral algorithms, and content designed to exploit psychological triggers in real time. Today's persuasion doesn't knock on your door. It appears on your screen before you even know you want something. Stylized analytics motif with heat map and red pulse motif as a section title card. Every click, every search, and every hesitation is recorded. Algorithms build psychological profiles, discovering what frightens you, excites you, or pressures you. Persuasion becomes personalized, messages shaped specifically for you. This creates influence that feels natural, because it's tailored to your behavior. Faint notification bokeh with red pulse accent, title overlay appears. Modern persuasion uses small nudges, short messages that pass under conscious awareness but guide behavior. A notification here, a suggestion there, an automated email at the perfect time. Each one tiny, but together they create momentum. Dark social comment stream with phone UI and red pulse accent, title overlaid. Digital life amplifies identity. Likes, shares, and comments validate behavior. People seek community, and platforms exploit this. By embedding persuasion into identity, people push themselves deeper into belief systems without realizing it. Influence is entering a new era. Artificial intelligence, biometric tracking, and real-time behavioral analysis will allow persuasion systems to predict decisions before they're made. Persuasion will no longer react to human behavior. It will anticipate it. Animated AI lattice background with a prominent section title over dark, cinematic noir lighting. AI can already analyze tone, expression, hesitation, and emotional cues. Soon, it will be able to identify when someone is vulnerable to influence before they recognize it themselves. AR grid title card over dark noir background with subtle HUD motion and cinematic lighting. Every person will experience a tailored version of reality. Ads, recommendations, and even search results will be shaped by behavioral predictions. Two people looking at the same screen will see completely different worlds. Split screen light versus dark motif with cinematic noir lighting and red pulse accent. With great predictive power comes ethical danger. Persuasion can empower or manipulate, inform or deceive, guide or control. The future will depend on who wields these tools and why. Why can some people persuade us instantly while others barely make a dent? Why do certain situations weaken our resistance while others strengthen it? The truth is simple. Your internal state determines your susceptibility. When someone is hungry, exhausted, lonely, grieving, uncertain, or desperate, their defenses collapse. Their ability to evaluate information rationally diminishes. A thirsty person will trade anything for a glass of water. A lonely person will believe anyone who gives them attention. A confused person will cling to whoever offers certainty. This is where persuasion becomes dangerous. When your primal needs aren't met, almost anyone who appears to solve that need becomes persuasive, even if they're offering nothing but illusions. The most effective manipulators prey on these exact states, targeting people who are tired, isolated, overwhelmed, or emotionally hungry. Robert Cialdini's research revealed 6 core principles that explain why humans comply, willingly or unwillingly. These principles aren't inherently evil. Persuading someone to wear a seatbelt is good. Persuading someone to commit harm is not. Yet the psychology is identical. The difference lies in the intention of the person using it. Cialdini's principles can uplift society or destroy it. Non-profit organizations use them ethically to raise funds and improve lives. Manipulators use them to exploit, control, and dominate. A Stanford Social Innovation Review survey found that 4 out of the 6 principles are especially powerful in helping nonprofits persuade donors ethically. Reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency. But when used unethically, those same principles become psychological traps. Bold high contrast title over vignetted noir frame with subtle red accent line, slow hold. Humans are wired to repay kindness. We feel uncomfortable receiving something without giving something back, even when the gift was engineered. Marketers exploit this with free samples. Manipulators exploit this by offering favors that create unspoken debts. Cialdini used the powerful historical example of Ethiopia sending aid to Mexico in 1985, while suffering famine, repaying a diplomatic kindness from 1935. Reciprocity works because the favor doesn't need to be requested. The return favor is often larger than the original. Society punishes those who don't return the gesture. Dark persuaders use this to create moral pressure. After everything I've done for you. Once someone commits to something, even verbally, they feel psychological pressure to act consistently with that commitment, even if the original motivation disappears. A fascinating study showed that racetrack bettors suddenly feel more confident about their horse after placing the bet. The horse didn't change, their commitment did. Humans hate appearing inconsistent, both to others and to themselves. This is why manipulators love getting small commitments, because people justify their future behavior based on past promises. Humans are herd creatures. When unsure, we look to others before acting. This is used everywhere. Testimonials, bestseller labels, group behavior, the illusion that everyone is doing it. Social proof helps us avoid mistakes, but it also fuels the madness of crowds, where people abandon independent thought simply because others did. Persuaders exploit this by implying that the desired behavior is the socially correct one. Humans tend to obey perceived authority, often blindly. Milgram's infamous experiments proved that ordinary people can commit horrific acts simply because an authority figure told them to. The frightening part? Authority can be faked. A uniform, a lab coat, a confident tone, a title. Manipulators wear authority masks to bypass resistance. We're more easily persuaded by people we like, or people who resemble us. Physical attractiveness also boosts trust unconsciously. This is why charismatic leaders, friendly salespeople, and charming manipulators can bypass logic entirely. Likability is persuasion's silent weapon. The long con is one of the most devastating forms of persuasion. It's slow, subtle, and meticulously planned. A manipulator builds trust over weeks, months, or years, creating artificial closeness, emotional dependency, and the illusion of friendship. Once the victim trusts them fully, the manipulator introduces requests that seem harmless. At first, then larger, then harmful, then catastrophic. By the time the victim realizes what's happening, the trap has closed. Dark persuasion rarely begins with a shocking request. Instead, it leads victims down a staircase. One small act, one slightly bigger act, one ethically questionable act, one illegal act, complete psychological capture. Cult leaders, criminal gangs, and manipulators all rely on graduality. The first step seems harmless. The 10th step becomes irreversible. Manipulators rarely reveal what they want. They disguise their real goals behind innocent requests. A common tactic: ask for something large, expect rejection, then settle for what you actually wanted. The victim feels relieved, unaware they've stepped into the trap. Reverse psychology also plays a major role, especially when manipulators exploit someone's instinct to rebel. Leading questions implant assumptions directly into the victim's mind. Example: how bad do you think those people are? This assumes they are bad. Manipulators rotate these questions constantly, switching tactics when resistance appears, then returning to them once the victim is compliant again. State transference occurs when the manipulator synchronizes their emotional state with the victim's. Sadness, anger, calmness, enthusiasm, then shifts the emotional tone gradually. The victim unconsciously follows. This synchronization grants enormous influence. The manipulator becomes the emotional driver, and the victim simply mirrors the ride. Many people struggle to see the difference between persuasion and manipulation. On the surface, both aim to do the same thing: get someone else to think, feel, or act in a particular way. But beneath that surface, they are not the same at all. Persuasion, at its best, is designed to benefit both sides. It seeks a shared outcome, a mutual gain. The other person is treated as a human being, a partner in the process. Manipulation is different. Manipulation only truly benefits one person, the manipulator. The target becomes a tool, a stepping stone, a means to an end. Their needs, safety, and well-being are secondary, if they matter at all. Where persuasion can be honest and transparent, manipulation is secretive, exploitative, and often cruel. That is what makes manipulation so insidious. Persuasion is about changing someone's mind, but that doesn't automatically make it evil. Persuasion can be used to help someone stop smoking, drive safely, wear a seatbelt, make better financial decisions, or avoid danger. It can be used to educate, protect, and inform just as easily as it can be used to sell. At its core, persuasion is any process that shifts another person's thoughts, emotions, attitudes, or behavior towards a person, idea, or action. It can be directed outward towards others, or inward, when we persuade ourselves to adopt a new belief or habit. Persuasion is everywhere: advertising, politics, education, religion, sales, social media, even friendships and family life. Wherever humans interact, persuasion is never far away. For persuasion to exist, 4 elements must always be present. 1. A persuader, the person doing the influencing. A message, the content or idea being communicated. A target, the person or group receiving that message. 4. A context, the situation or environment in which the message is delivered. Manipulation fits inside this broad category, but it sits at the darker end of the spectrum. Psychologically, manipulation is a covert form of influence. It still changes thoughts, emotions, and behavior, but it does so through deception, concealment, and exploitation. A manipulator isn't interested in honesty. They are interested in results. Lies, half-truths, emotional pressure, and misdirection are all acceptable tools, as long as they get what they want. To the manipulator, the target's well-being is irrelevant. Harm is not a concern. The other person's feelings are collateral damage. Manipulation typically rests on 3 pillars: 1. Hidden motives, concealing true intentions whilst appearing friendly, charming, or helpful on the surface. 2. Exploiting vulnerability, studying the target's emotional, psychological, or practical weaknesses and using them as leverage. 3. Lack of conscience, a willingness to hurt, drain, or disadvantage the other person without guilt or remorse. Different manipulative tactics may look very different on the outside, but most of them follow this pattern: covert, harmful, and emotionally cold. Persuasion and manipulation are both forms of social influence, but that's where the similarity ends. Persuasion, even when used in darker psychological contexts, can still be ethical. It can be truthful, transparent, and mutually beneficial. Manipulation never is. Manipulation is self-serving, ruthless, dishonest, and often damaging to the target. So how do you know which one you're using, or which one is being used on you? You can ask 3 simple questions. 1. What is my true intention? Am I trying to help this person, or just help myself? 2. Am I being honest? Am I revealing the full reality of the situation, or am I hiding major details to steer them unfairly? 3. How does this benefit them? If this goes the way I want, will they genuinely benefit, or will they suffer? If your intention is to help, if you are being truthful, and if the outcome benefits both of you, you are likely in the realm of persuasion. Imagine you are helping someone choose a car. They have a large family, but they're looking at a small, impractical model that doesn't fit their needs. You persuade them towards a safer, more spacious option, because it genuinely suits their situation better. You explain the reasons clearly and honestly. That is persuasion. Now imagine the opposite. You push them towards a more expensive vehicle that doesn't fit their life at all, but it gives you a bigger commission. You hide flaws, downplay costs, and ignore their needs. That is manipulation. The difference is not the act of influence itself. The difference is intent, honesty, and impact. Because persuasion and manipulation can look similar from the outside, some people decide to avoid persuasion altogether, as if all influence is toxic. That's a mistake. Ethical persuasion can be incredibly powerful and deeply positive.
Think of the best leader or teacher you've ever had. They probably weren't aggressive. They didn't scream, threaten, or manipulate. But when they spoke, people listened. Disruptive people calmed down. Uninterested people engaged. The room shifted. They were persuading, but in a way that helped everyone.
Ethics isn't just a philosophy lecture or a dry textbook. Ethics sits at the core of everything we do when other people are involved. In simple terms, ethics are the moral principles that guide our behavior, the inner rules that determine how we treat other people. One of the simplest ethical ideas most people learn as children is, treat others the way you would want to be treated. Doctors, lawyers, therapists, and other professionals have strict codes of ethics to protect the people they deal with. But ethical responsibility doesn't stop with them. You don't need a title to act ethically. You just need a conscience. Acting ethically helps children behave safely and respectfully, diffuses conflict in tense environments, supports partners in reaching fair compromises, helps teams make better decisions at work, lets you look in the mirror without shame. When you influence others ethically, they are more likely to see you as a reliable ally, not a threat. To keep persuasion ethical, there's a useful shorthand you can use, TERAS. It stands for truthfulness, authenticity, respect, equity, social responsibility. Think of it as a checklist for your influence. Ethical persuasion starts with honesty. That means more than just not lying. It also means not deliberately hiding important information that would change the other person's decision. Ask yourself, is what I'm saying factually true? Am I leaving out anything major that they deserve to know? Am I withholding information just to push them towards my preferred outcome? If you respect someone's free will, you give them the full truth, even when it might make them less likely to choose what you want. The goal of ethical persuasion isn't to trick someone into obedience. It's to present reality clearly, and then let them decide. Authenticity goes beyond factual truth. It asks, am I doing this for the right reasons? Are your claims exaggerated? Are you using fear, guilt, or stereotypes to push someone into agreement? If you were in their position, with their needs and constraints, would you still see your message as fair and honest? One simple test. If you take yourself out of the persuader's role and imagine yourself as the target, would you trust what you're hearing? If your answer is no, something is off. Your persuasion might be drifting towards manipulation. Respect means treating the other person as a human being with their own needs, values, and experiences, not as a stereotype or a statistic. Ask yourself, am I tailoring what I say to this person's real situation? Or am I lazily relying on stereotypes, cliches, or cheap emotional triggers? Would I be comfortable if my words and tactics were read out loud in front of others? If your persuasion depends on insulting, demeaning, or reducing someone to a category, you've left the ethical path. Ethical persuasion is targeted, but it is never degrading. Equity means fairness. It means both sides have access to enough information to make a meaningful decision. Unethical persuaders rely on information gaps. They exploit what the other person doesn't know to push them in a direction that benefits the persuader. Imagine someone comes to a doctor asking for an extreme, expensive treatment when a simpler, cheaper option would work just as well. If the doctor stays silent about the easier option, they're not being ethical. They're profiting from ignorance. The same applies in sales, negotiation, and everyday life. If you know something that would obviously change the other person's decision, and you hide it to push your agenda, you're not persuading. You're manipulating. Equity demands that you level the field, even if doing so means the other person might choose something that doesn't benefit you directly. The final test is this. If everyone did what I'm doing right now, what kind of world would that create? Social responsibility asks you to zoom out and look at the bigger impact of your persuasion. Are you encouraging harmful ideas, fueling prejudice, hatred, or division, taking advantage of people who are already vulnerable? Or are you giving genuinely helpful advice, respecting people's dignity, contributing to safer, healthier decisions? If your persuasion passes all 5 tests, truthfulness, authenticity, respect, equity, social responsibility, then you're using influence as a force for good. If it fails even one of them, it's worth stepping back and asking, am I still persuading? Or am I slipping into manipulation? When we watch other people, we don't just see what they do. We explain why they did it. That's where attribution theory comes in. It explores how we mentally fill in the gaps behind someone's behavior. There are 2 main paths: situational, external attribution; dispositional, internal attribution. Situational attribution blames or credits the environment. We might say, he grew up in a chaotic household. That's why he reacts like that. She's under extreme pressure at work. No wonder she snapped. Here, the focus is on circumstances and context, often outside the person's direct control. Dispositional attribution does the opposite. It focuses on personality, character, motives, and abilities. We say things like Hinai, Citizen Sane, Istudisen disaster, Shijentail, Persuasive Say. She's lazy. That's just who they are. Instead of asking what happened around them, we declare what they are. The problem? Humans have a nasty habit of getting this wrong. This error is often called the fundamental attribution error. We instinctively blame someone's personality when their behavior might be better explained by their situation. We especially do this when we don't know them well. With little context, it's easier to slap on a label than to consider their circumstances. And here's where persuasion comes in. When we want others to like us or do something for us, we usually describe our good actions as proof of our good character. But when we're explaining away our bad behavior, we suddenly become experts in situational excuses. I was rude because I had a terrible day. But if someone else is rude, we decide they're a rude person. Attribution theory reminds us how we explain behavior, our own and others, becomes a powerful tool in influence, for good or for manipulation. Conditioning sits at the heart of modern persuasion. Instead of ordering someone what to do, conditioning subtly trains their brain to associate certain feelings with certain stimuli until they almost choose the behavior themselves. Advertisers rely on this relentlessly. Watch how many adverts show people laughing, use nostalgic or emotional stories, add upbeat music, and then, right at the end, flash the brand logo. They're creating a link. When you feel this good, this brand is involved. Over time, that association sinks in. You reach for a product not because you've analyzed it rationally, but because it feels right. Emotion is a shortcut. People buy because of how a product makes them feel, and then justify it with logic after. Conditioning works by pairing a product with positive emotions, repeating this pairing again and again, training the brain to activate those emotions the moment the brand appears. The behavior, buying, choosing, supporting, becomes almost automatic. Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory explains what happens when our beliefs and our actions don't line up. Humans crave internal consistency. We want our thoughts, values, and behavior to agree with each other, but often they don't. Imagine someone who knows smoking is harmful, believes health is important, but still smokes heavily. That tension, I value health, but I'm damaging myself, creates psychological discomfort. That discomfort is what we call cognitive dissonance. We don't like it, so we try to resolve it. Festinger suggested 4 main ways people reduce dissonance. 1. Downplay the importance of the conflicting belief, oh, life is short anyway. Oh, health is overrated, I might get hit by a bus tomorrow. 2. Change a belief or attitude, oh, maybe smoking isn't as bad as they say. 3. Recalculate the cost-benefit balance, oh, yes, it's risky, but it helps me relax. The stress relief is worth it. 4. Bring behavior and beliefs closer together. Start cutting down, switching habits, or adopting healthier actions. Cognitive dissonance is a powerful lever in persuasion. Show someone the gap between what they believe and what they do, and they'll feel forced to either change their behavior or change their story. A skilled persuader knows exactly which pressure point to push. When someone throws a bold idea at you, you don't just absorb it. You judge it against what you already believe. That's the core of social judgment theory. According to this theory, each person has an anchor point, their current, most acceptable position on an issue. When a new message comes in, we mentally place it in one of 3 zones. Latitude of acceptance, latitude of rejection, latitude of non-commitment, neutral, undecided. How we react to a persuasive message depends on where it lands. The more important the issue is to our identity, our ego involvement, the narrower our acceptance and non-commitment become. and the wider our rejection zone grows. If something feels connected to who we are, what we stand for, or how we see ourselves, we become far less flexible. Here's the twist. When a message falls inside our acceptance zone, we tend to mentally pull it closer to our anchor than it really is. We tell ourselves, "That's basically what I already think." When it falls in our rejection zone, we push it further away in our mind, seeing it as more extreme than it is. For persuaders, this has clear implications. If you pitch something too far from someone's anchor, it lands in their rejection zone. No movement. If you pitch something close enough to their existing view, you have a chance of nudging their anchor gradually over time. Small shifts, repeated over multiple messages. That's how beliefs migrate. Social judgment theory is a reminder. If your message is too extreme for your audience, they don't reconsider it. They repel it. In medicine, a vaccine exposes you to a weak version of a virus so your body learns to fight the real thing. Inoculation theory works in a similar way, but with ideas. The basic idea: expose people to a weaker opposing argument. Let them mentally attack it and defeat it. In the process, you strengthen their defenses against stronger attacks later. You see this often in comparative advertising. One brand presents a weak version of the competitor's case, something easily dismissed, and then follows up with its own strong argument. The goal is simple. Train the audience to reject the rival's position before the rival even speaks. When used cleverly, inoculation doesn't just persuade, it pre-protects people from future persuasion attempts. Facts argue, stories transport. Narrative transport theory explains how people's beliefs and attitudes can shift when they become deeply absorbed in a story. When certain conditions are met, engaging characters, emotional stakes, vivid world building, the listener or viewer can experience narrative transportation. Their attention is fully absorbed. Their emotions lock onto the characters. Their sense of the real world fades temporarily. In that state, defensiveness drops. They're not thinking why I am being persuaded. They're simply feeling. If the story evokes empathy, tension, and emotional connection, new attitudes can slip in quietly. About morality, about groups of people, about what is normal or acceptable. This is why powerful films, series, and stories can subtly rewire what people support, reject, or tolerate, all while they believe they were just being entertained. For a dark persuader, narrative transport is a stealth weapon. For an ethical persuader, it's a way to change minds without direct confrontation. Picture a fortune teller at a fair. Dark clothes, heavy jewelry, candles. She looks at an adult stranger and says, "I'm sensing someone you've lost. He says he misses you. He loved calling you by that little nickname." It's vague. It could apply to tens of thousands of people. But if it even loosely matches the listener's experience, it feels personal, eerie, meaningful. That's the Barnum effect. The Barnum effect describes how people accept broad, general statements as if they were uniquely tailored to them. Astrology is a textbook example. You're stubborn but caring. You like your independence but value loyalty. These traits could describe millions of people, yet individuals claim, "That's so me." Psychology has found that people are just as likely to accept vague, generic personality descriptions as they are to accept carefully crafted, accurate assessments, especially when the statements are positive and the person wants to believe. This is why many psychic readings, horoscopes, and personality scams work. The listener feels seen when in reality, the statements would fit almost anyone. Using the Barnum effect to persuade. To weaponize the Barnum effect, persuaders use Barnum statements, broad, flattering descriptions that sound specific, but could apply to almost everyone. People are far more likely to trust, follow, or buy from someone who understands them, even if that understanding is an illusion. Example: a salesperson notices a woman covered in designer brands, stylish sunglasses, a statement handbag. He makes a gentle comment. "You strike me as someone who really cares about how things look and feel. Details matter to you, don't they?" It's vague, but likely to hit. If she nods and feels understood, he's laid the foundation for selling her a status-heavy car, or selling her a practical car positioned as a clever, stylish, strategic choice. Once someone believes, "This person really gets me," they become easier to guide. That's the Barnum effect in action. Humans are deeply sensitive to the people around them. We don't just think in isolation. We constantly scan. What are others doing? What's normal here? What will happen if I stand out? Social pressure turns that sensitivity into a powerful force of persuasion. One classic experiment demonstrates this brutally. Participants sat in a row facing a display of lines. One standard line of a fixed length. 3 comparison lines, A, B, and C, each a different length. The task was simple. Identify which line, A, B, or C, matched the length of the standard line. To one participant, the answer was obviously line B. But there was a catch. Unknown to the real subject, the other 6 participants were actors. They had been instructed to deliberately give the wrong answer, line C, again and again. What happened? As each actor confidently answered C, the real participant began to doubt what they saw with their own eyes. By the time it was their turn, many of them abandoned their own correct perception and agreed with the group. Across trials, around 76% of real participants conformed at least once, choosing the clearly wrong line. The message is chilling. When the group points one way, many people will override their own senses, just to avoid standing out. One driver of social pressure is informational influence. When we're unsure what's happening, we look to others for guidance. We think, if everyone else thinks this, maybe I'm wrong. They must know something I don't. If the situation is ambiguous or unfamiliar, this effect becomes even stronger. We distrust our own senses, and instead trust the group. No clear reference point, no prior experience, no authority to confirm what's true. So we surrender our opinion to the crowd. The second driver is normative influence, and it's often even more powerful. This isn't about believing the group is right. It's about fearing the cost of being different. We know that rejection hurts. Isolation feels like pain. Being labeled odd, difficult, or wrong can be socially dangerous, so we conform. In the line experiment, when people had to say their answer out loud, many bowed to the group and chose the wrong line. But when they were allowed to write down their answer privately, far more of them stuck with the correct line. Same eyes, same perception, different social risk. When the threat of public judgment disappears, so does much of the pressure to conform. We want to belong. We don't want to be cast out. And persuasion that leans on social pressure uses this fear ruthlessly. Social norms are powerful, and they're often situational. We decide what's normal by looking around. If you walk into a library and everyone is talking loudly, you quickly assume, this place is relaxed, noise is normal here. You adapt. If a park is covered in litter, people are far more likely to drop rubbish. If the same park is spotless, most people feel pressure to keep it clean. That's persuasion through implied norms. You don't have to lecture people. You show them. This is what people do here. The same principle applies to tipping. An empty tip jar suggests, no one tips much. A jar seated with visible notes suggests, people give generously here. People follow what they think others already do. This method can also backfire when we highlight the wrong norm, such as, there's a serious drinking problem on campus. That implies heavy drinking is widespread, and therefore normal. A smarter message would be, most students are choosing to drink less and act responsibly. Keep it up. That reinforces a positive norm, encouraging others to align with it. If you want to persuade through norms, show the desired behavior is common. Avoid framing the negative behavior as the standard. People move towards what they believe everyone else is already doing. Reciprocity is another deeply human norm. If you do something for me, I should do something for you. When someone helps us, we feel grateful, a bit exposed, slightly uncomfortable until the favor is returned. We don't like feeling indebted, so we look for ways to restore balance. A savvy persuader knows this and deliberately creates that imbalance. Offering unexpected favors, small gifts, help that wasn't asked for. On the surface, it looks generous. Underneath, it plants a hook. Later, when they ask for something, a decision, a purchase, a concession, the target feels a subtle pull. I can't say no, after what they did for me. No one likes to think of themselves as ungrateful, so they comply. Used ethically, reciprocity can build genuine relationships. Used manipulatively, it becomes a silent psychological leash. Humans crave belonging, approval, and the feeling of being valued. Compliments tap straight into that. A sincere compliment can lower defenses, increase liking, and spark a sense of connection or even mild indebtedness. But like any tool, it can be used strategically. The key is not to spray compliments everywhere. That looks desperate and fake. Instead, observe something specific about the person: appearance, behavior, skill, or character. Comment on it in a grounded, authentic way. Done well, a compliment boosts their mood, makes you more likable, and primes them to respond positively to you. And often, they'll feel a pull to respond in kind, with friendliness, openness, or yes, compliance. Compliments can be a doorway into influence. The question is whether you use that doorway with integrity, or as a tactical entry point for manipulation. Part 3. Coming soon.